Good afternoon, everyone. Today's engagement is on the topic of perception and individual decision making. And this is going to be an important topic for all of you because most of the time, whatever that we have in our life, almost always determined by others' perception on us, whether the job that you're getting or whether the relationship that you're involved in, all that because of somebody thought something about you and they decided to engage you or they decided to work with you or even they decided to share their life with you, all because of somebody thought something about you. So the thought on somebody about you is called their perception. And what about you? The friends that you have, the company that you work, everything depended on your perception on something else or someone else. So what is this thing called perception? What is it important? Why and how we see the world as it is? You see, whenever you go and you see people shooting a movie elsewhere, you will see the director normally will do this, instead of a camera, they look at certain angle because they want to capture everything that they want to show you in the movie within that frame. Okay, this is frame. Okay, within that frame. So they don't want to capture anything out of this frame when they show that to you in a movie. They want to show what they want to show. They don't want you to look at what else happened beyond the thing. For instance, if you're watching a Hindi movies or whatever movie which has got some dancing skin, right? When they play dancing, everything. So the director of the movie will show the camera within the angle that he or she want you to see. So the hero and the heroine will be dancing happily in a very rich clothes, whatnot, coming in a Lamborghini, whatever it is, in that frame. But just outside of the frame, where the director didn't capture, just outside of the brain, could be some people fighting, could be some people who are begging for food, could be some very ugly, okay, places and whatnot. All that you are not going to see. Why? Because the director created a frame for you to lock your attention. So that frame is what our eyes are. That frame is what our thinking process are. So you see things within that frame. And that frame for human being guided by senses. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you feel, so on and so forth. These are the senses that will help you to perceive things. So when you look into a movie, two people happily singing and dancing, and they appear to be very rich. No, they are not. The director create the scene and he influence your perception to show you this couple that is singing on the screen. They are really, really happy couple. Not necessarily. In the personal life, their life could be really, really sad life. Maybe they are not having a good relationship with the husband or wife. Maybe they are not having a good relationship with their children or their parents. But you don't know because you perceive them as they're happy based on the movie that you watched that was influenced by your senses. So, what if the perception is negative? What if the perception is negative? You see, when your ability to see the world negatively will put you in a prison. So we call that as your mental prison. Sometimes we also call that as a perceptual prison. So that means you have got certain belief system that influences you, the way you look at things, the way you perceive things, and the way you conclude about things, and the way you react or respond with other things. Perception. For instance, racism is perception because you are not born racist. However, when you are a child, somebody in your family put in an idea, people with this skin color, people with this hair color, people with this eye color, they are bad. They are not as good as you are. You are superior than them. So they put that idea that you are superior than others. So now you use that knowledge, that input to perceive the world, and you look around and you look down on people. When you look down on people, how can you be a good person even though you pray every day? How can you be good, okay, person when you look down on people? But you don't feel it because in your perception, you are right. So now you are trapped into that level of thinking. You are trapped. And that trap is called mental prison. That is your trap. You know what? In this mental prison, there is no lock, but you're not getting out because you believe in being inside there because you think that is the right thing to do. I gave an examples of racism as one of your mental prisons. What about other aspect? What about your understanding about employment itself could be a mental prison? What about, no, I'm married, even though my husband is abusive, even though my wife is unfaithful, but I will stay married because marriage is a beautiful, sacred institution. So you stay there, even though you're being abused in the marriage, in a relationship. Why? Because that is a mental prison. Sometimes you go work for companies. You are being abused. There is no self-worth. They are really treating you badly. But you feel, no, I want to be loyal to my company. I need this salary. Then you choose to stay there by suffering. That is your mental prison. So there are so many types of mental prisons that we are there. I like this quote. It says that most people are the victim of their own thinking to create a mental prison for themselves. You see, the mental prison is that you are the one who create for yourself. Okay. And this mental prison is so elusive that they don't even know that they're in the prison. So this is the danger of this mental prison. You don't even know that you are inside this mental prison. So today's engagement going to explain to you what this perception, then how this perception can lead to your perceptual prison, also known as mental prison. This is what we're going to work on that. Okay, welcome to the topic of perception. So what is this perception? Perception is a process, it's a mental process by which individual you, as well as others, okay, organize and interpret your sensory impression. That means your senses are collect data all the time. You look into things and you experience things, you smell things, you touch things. All these are sensories. We call sensory input. They are coming to you. So now how are you going to organize that inputs? Then how are you going to interpret? The key word here, interpret. Because if you interpret this way, this is different meaning than you interpret that way. That's a different meaning. So for instance, the sensory input that you're getting now is about me, from me, right? So I'm actually sharing something with you. But now the question is, how do you perceive me? Some people will perceive differently. Some people will perceive differently. Some of you don't even like the introductory coaching sessions that I do to you because I say, hey, let's go on with the PowerPoint. Let's finish it. That you could be working along that line. But some of you said, hey, PowerPoint, I can read. Okay, I can access to PowerPoint, but I want to get Mehan's view or coaching on the topic. You see, same thing, two different people process it differently and give a different impressions and give different meaning to the environment. So the ability to see, hear, and also become aware of something through the senses is where you gather your input. Meaning, the way in which something is regarded, understood, and interpreted. That's a perception. How you interpret, and sometimes how you use it too. So people's behavior based on their perception on what reality is, but not on reality itself. This is the thing. is what you think of reality, then you act on it, compared to what reality itself. We don't go and verify what reality is. We make assumption on what reality is, then we act on it. Can we do better? Can we actually go and have the objective perceptions about things? For that, let's find out what is this sensory, what you call perception process is all about. A quick video on perception process, how perceptions are working for people. Enjoy it.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to quickly go over the perception process. This has been in your readings, but students tend to have a lot of trouble with the perception process. So I just want to go over it very quickly, just to add some extra examples and kind of simplify it for you so you see where we're coming from here. So the perception process, perception is just basically how we make sense of things, how we make judgments about things, how we interpret our world. And we kind of all go through this frame of reference, and we all have a different frame of reference based on our backgrounds, our environments, our culture. There's a lot of different factors here. So that's why it's so easy to miscommunicate or have errors in perceptions, because everybody's coming from different past experiences. So let's go through the process. The first step is selection. In the selection process, we're choosing something to focus on. So, for example, I'm in a room right now. There's a lot of things going on in here. For pretend, I'm actually in a room all by myself right now. But for pretend purposes, I'm in a room. There's a lot of things going on in the room. There's other students. There's my instructor in the front. There's people walking down the hallway. Somebody's phone is going off. There's a lot of things going on in the room. I need to focus on one thing. So I'm going to choose to select to focus on my instructor because I'm in class right now. And not focus on the people in the hallway, not focus on the other students. Really, in terms of selection, you can really only focus on one thing at a time. And again, this process happens so fast in your brain, you don't even really think about it. But you're really only focusing on one thing at a time. So those of you who think you're really good at multitasking, you're really good at just shifting attention from one thing to another. But we're not really multitasking. We're really only focusing and selecting one thing at a time to perceive. So I'm watching my instructor, and I'm tuning out everything else in the room. I'm going to focus and I'm going to perceive, make a perception about my instructor. So now I move to organization. And in the organization step, I'm going to really analyze what is it that the instructor is doing in this stage. And then I'm going to put it in my brain, compare it to my past experiences. Now, how do we organize this information in our brain? In our readings, it talks a lot about things like proximity, similarity, differences. We kind of have ways we just organize things in general. I really like the readings and how they talk about that. One of the easiest ways for us to perceive and organize is by looking at that idea of proximity. If two people are close together, we kind of just make that interpretation or assumption that they must be together in some sort or they know each other. We just make that assumption automatically. So like the idea of proximity, we organize, they're close together. That's the organization. They must be together. That's our interpretation. So back to my example of being in the classroom, I'm going to more analyze the behaviors of what they're doing outside of the proximity, similarity, differences. So I'm going to just look at what is the instructor doing right now. So my instructor is writing something in red ink on the board, putting some exclamation points by it, talking in a very loud voice, underlining the words he's saying, waving his arms and really pointing to this word that he wrote on the board. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, in past experiences that I've had, I'm going to put all this through my own frame of reference. When someone is pointing at a word, underlining it on the board, putting exclamation points next to it, using a very loud tone of voice when describing this word, I think he's trying to get a point across to us that he really wants us to know this word. This must be something really important for me. So in my past experiences, when an instructor has told me that something is really important, it's been because it's something that we're really going to be tested on. So I should probably pay attention to this. That's our interpretation. We've made that interpretation that based on my past experiences, all these schemata that I put this through, what this and the behaviors that I'm seeing this instructor doing, this vocabulary term that he's put on the board is very important. I need to pay attention to it. It's probably going to be on the test. And maybe he's going to come out and say, hey, this is on the test. And then you know, like, your perception is correct. That's a pretty easy example. But if you think about in certain situations where maybe you don't have a lot of experience with a certain stimuli, like if this was your first time ever taking a class and you hadn't seen that before, you know, an instructor standing there really like pointing to a word and yelling and underlining, you would wonder, like, why are they doing this? Like, they really want me to see this word, but why? You're not going to have that frame of reference point to be able to know exactly why it is that they're doing this. So keep that in mind. Our frame of reference for everyone is a little bit different. Like I said, it is influenced by cultural perspectives, past experiences, upbringings, where we live makes a difference in our perceptions. That's why it's so easy to be wrong in our perceptions. So that's a brief overview of the perception process. I hope that helps simplify it.
Okay, remember that, yeah, it's all about the selection. Selection means selection of the input that you are being exposed to. Then after that, it's going to be about the way that you interpret. Okay, interpret, and also finally it's going to be organization. So in a notebook that you can see, okay, so perceptions actually, as you can see, there are three parts to involve in this. Okay, number one, factors in the perceiver. So perceiver means you are the one perceive things, right? So what are your attitude? What are your motives? What are your interests? What are your experience? What are your expectations? All that will influence the way you're going to look at things, right? So it's about the perceiver. Second is about the target. Target means could be the person that you're perceiving, or it could be things. Okay. So now the factors in the target could be novelty. Novelty means, oh, this is very unique first time. Motion, the movement, the sound, the size, the background, proximity, how near it is to you, how similar, what is your understanding about the thing. So now who you are and what and who the other party also going to influence the process of perception. Not only that, at the same time, maybe you're going to look into the time that the perception takes place. Because sometimes we realize that sometimes when we perceive things differently in the morning compared to night, okay, or maybe in the work setting, maybe how do you perceive things with your friend compared to with your boss? And of course, at the same time, we're also talking about what are the social settings that involve in this process? Where exactly? How do you perceive things? How do you perceive things? Sometimes some people wear very sexy, but you accept it. Hey, no, she's a performer, so it's very okay. But if the same person wears similar things in let's say in a temple, then you start to say she's a bad woman. So how you perceive things also depend on where the situation is happening, and also where the environment is set up. So you put all this together, three things: the perceiver, the perceived, or we call this a target, and also the other environment, going to influence your perceptions all the time. So in order to understand the concept of perceptions much more clearly, we go into element of a few theories that we're going to have a lengthy discussion. We start with attribution theory, very important topic, okay? So what is the meaning of this attribution theory? Attribution theory suggests that when we observe an individual behavior, we attempt to determine whether it was internally or externally caused. Very interesting, very interesting. We'll go deeper into this one, whether it's internally or externally caused. What is this internal and external distribution is all about, okay? So whether or not you think that you are reacting, or you think that you are reacting because of the environment. So we will look into that one. So determinations of these depend on three factors: distinctiveness, consensus, and also consistency. Okay, more details in your textbook, but I can tell you whether or not the uniqueness of the problem, uniqueness of situation, how that is influence you, or what about the general understanding of what is happening, and also whether or not this thing has happened before a similar way. So all these, when they come together, will give you an idea what are you looking at. and what things are working. So I mentioned earlier about internal and external causation. This is very key. I want you to use this to have your very own understanding about this, because some people, they always what do you call share what's happening in their mind is caused by them, or sometimes they always connect that to other people. So internally caused mean those are believed to be under personal control of the individual. So that means your interpretation, your meaning that influence the way you perceive things. Externally caused mean resulting from other factors outside of you. So it's not me. Look at the environment, look at the other person. So how do you, in one of the chapter, we're going to go into the moods, we're going to go internal locus of control and external locus of control. I'll expand these discussions more into that context. So how do we understand attribution theory? Okay, so remember this direction is very, very interesting direction. It's basically about your individual behavior. It's your behavior that influenced by these three things: distinctiveness, consensus, and consistently. Then we will see if it is a distinctiveness, that means it's very unique. Okay, so the attribution cost always going to be external rather than internal, because the one that decide your perception on them is about that thing, not about the way you look at things. So that means external attribution cost, of course, is very high. Consensus, again, as I said, to what extent we all agree this is what it is. So if this is what it is, and you can see external attribution of cost is higher than the internal. Finally, consistency. So consistency basically means whether or not you have experienced this again and again and again. So when you have experienced this many times, now you know how you're going to react to people. Now you know how you're going to respond to people. So in that context, you will see attribution of the cause is internal. It's about inside you, not outside of you. What happened when we wrongly attribute? We call this a fundamental attribution matters. What happened when you wrongly attribute? Okay, meaning that you underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal personal factors. You start to blame somebody. You say, no, 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 you should have done better, without even recognizing the person was under a lot of stress, tremendous stress, or the person do not have the ability to perform, but you continue to blame the person rather than the environment that is causing it. So we call that as a fundamental attribution error. Okay, it's also supported by self-serving bias. Okay, this is sometimes you can see people in Malaysia, we call shock sendiri, because sometimes when they succeed, they always believe themselves as to be very, very successful because of their own ability, not because of other people's ability. So this is where self-serving bias is. You must always recognize the contribution of the other people and other environment. Okay, hold on. As I mentioned, self-serving bias is where when somebody take all the credit, they do not recognize other people's contributions. So what kind of person are you? Are you one of those people who always take all the credit, or you always give credit to the team that is working with you? What are the issues, shortcuts in judging others? This is worse. Okay, so this is what we call as a selective perception. That means you're capable of seeing things objectively, but you know what? You choose to take certain input that serve your perception. You ignore all the others. Okay, elements that can support, okay, a right decision making. But you know why? Because now you are very much into bias, personal bias, right? So now the information that you're getting to look at things are not complete. But most of the time, what we'll do, we use that uh, very small amount of data to make that decisions. Like for instance, recently, two things that major things that happened in our country, right? There was one temple issue, the Hindu versus Muslim issue, the temple issues in Kuala Lumpur. At the same time, another thing happened. That is what they call the Petronas gas pipe explosion. These things happen. So some two big things that happen in our country, but you and I didn't get enough information. But most of us just follow the information that you're getting from the social media. Then you started to reshare, you started to attack. Do you know the truth? You know, do you know the truth? You don't know. But based on how other people play the news to your ears, and now you started to believe, then you started to have your own opinion about who's right, what is wrong. But I'm asking you, what if these two issues are small issues, but some politicians want to make it bigger? So they fan the hatred, they fan whatever it is, all right, to divert your attention to other matters, not the matters that is important in our country. They don't want to. So you see, now your perception is completely racial, religion, and governance as far as the Petronas is concerned, and you forget about the real issue that faced by the people in Malaysia. Why? Because of the selective perception. People take you towards that selective perception. That is their goal. We talked about this from the first engagement, the halo effect. Halo effect is the first positive impression that you meet when somebody, and that will influence your perception on others. That is what it is about attribution. Horn effect also we discussed. If you have a negative, all right, perception of somebody from the first meeting, there you are. And also about contrast effects. So that means if the one that I am looking at, they're different from me, so my perception towards them could be different as well. And most importantly, it could become a wrong perceptions about them because they are not same as me. So these factors are really, really important. This may lead to something called stereotyping. Stereotyping is one of the worst human attributes, I must say. Stereotyping. That means you take a small sample, you apply it on the larger scale. Okay. In Malaysia, we have got this stereotyping. Probably you do not have any personal experience with this. However, because of your listen to the others, now you pass judgment on others. For instance, in Malaysia, the Chinese and the Malay will call Indians in a certain way. Every Indian. The moment they're Indian, Indian must be like that. That's stereotyping. But the person who's saying the Indian must be like that may not have any single negative incident with any other Indian. All right? They never had. Maybe even the friends they have, Indian friends they have, are good. But somehow they'll say, Indians are like that. Same goes to the Chinese, and the Indian will pass on some racial attributes towards the Chinese. Okay? And the Chinese and the Indian will say something about the Malays. Oh, Malays are like that. Or Chinese are like that. Or Indians are like that. You see, when you said all of them are like that, using a small data that you have, which is not even your personal experience, that process is called stereotyping. That process is called stereotyping. And you know what? Stereotyping means it's a very unfair way of looking at it. The unfair way of things. For instance, the worst thing, the one of the worst stereotyping that's happening in the world that I condemn, that is something called Islamophobia. Why? Because the Americans created a fear, okay, that those Muslims are generally not in Malaysia, on the Middle East and everything, they are the terrorists. Wrong, wrong. So when there is a fight between Palestine and Israel, They say Israel are the right party, the Palestinians are the terrorists. No, wrong. It is the Israel for occupying the land of the Palestinians. Okay, so that's the thing. So the Palestinian in that context are the freedom fighters. They are fighting to take back their country. But you see the way the perceptions, stereotyping is given for those Muslims are they are terrorists. They must be terrorists. Same goes to 9/11. When 9/11, they lead to the group of people, Al Qaeda, which led by Osama bin Laden, just to make sure that the whole world will perceive the Muslims as terrorists. And that is working well now, which is so wrong, very unfair. That is a stereotyping. And that process is called Islamophobia. They create fears among the Western that the religion of Islam supports terrorism. How bad they are. But that is the process of stereotyping. It happened at the smallest level of race. It happened at the national. And as I mentioned, it's also happening at the international level. Okay. So how these things will affect organizations? Hey, we mentioned earlier, these are the things that interviewers can use it wrongly to judge people wrongly as well. Imagine stereotyping. They look at some race like that and they pass on some decisions. Or they talk about people first 5 minutes after they form an impression and they stick to that. That means they are not going to listen to you fully to change their mind. Research shows that people hardly change their mind after they made up their mind. That's an issue here. And what about performance expectation? Okay, this evidence demonstrates that people will attempt to validate their perception of reality even when those perceptions are faulty. Because sometimes ordinary, you are at fault, but you are not going to agree to that one because now you believe your perception is right, even though evidences will show that hey, you are wrong. That's a key here. So we call that as a performance expectation, and you stick to your initial perception about things. This is what we call as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy is about how you think you become. Okay, how you think. Also, it's called a Pygmalion effect. Please do some studies on Pygmalion effect. Pygmalion effect is if I want you to, okay, succeed, I treat you as successful people. Okay, let me explain this Pygmalion effect and how the effect comes about it, and I'll explain why I treat you all the way that I treat you all. So Pygmalion effect happened many, many years ago in one of the school in the United States. And the students' background are the same. So the students all come from a very poor background. And the results of the school always low. So people was asking why. Is it because of their background is poor and now they are not really smart here? Or maybe the way we are teaching is wrong. So they were confused about this. So what happened in 1 year, they divided this group of students into two categories, category A and category B. Okay, they divide into two categories. So what happened is they brought in new teachers, and category A, they didn't say anything. They said, continue teach. They are coming from the poor background. Give your best. That's what they say. Continue to teach. They come from a poor background. Okay. In the past, their performance is not so good. Then continue to teach. They didn't say anything. But B, okay, group B, they told the teachers, you know what? This group of students are the brightest. This group of students, they are the brightest. And, right, if you can teach them better, they're going to be the best of the students in the whole, state. So they painted a positive picture about Group B students. But remember, they are the same, Group A and Group B. Then at the end of the year, what happened was the student from Group B, all of them excel. All of them excel. Why? because the teachers who went to the class perceived them to be smartest, and they teach them thinking that they are smartest. They will understand what they're teaching, and that result in the students learn better and perform better. So that's what we call as a Pygmalion effect. So the way you think about this will become your reality. So when you come into the class from the day one, I told you are not my student. You are future bosses. I told you that I'm not interested in the next 3 months. I'm interested in the next 40 years because I believe you are. So my anger, my sharing, my dedication is not all because I'm teaching student. I'm 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 actually coaching the future professional. I'm coaching future father and mothers. I'm coaching the future leaders of the country. That is the mindset that I bring to the engagement. Then I will teach accordingly. And I believe that it will work well if you start to believe in yourself more. Okay, it's about self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Performance evaluation, I talked about that earlier. How people looked at certain things and what is that, yeah? Let's continue. What about social media? How they are influencing you nowadays? Okay, so whenever it's social media, this is it's going to be really, really important factor because nowadays organization going to use the social media to perceive you. Your activities on LinkedIn, your activities on Facebook, activities on Insta, going to give certain perception to the recruiters about you. So don't blame that they don't take you seriously. Don't blame because they perceive with the input they're going to gather about you, and they're going to make decisions, and we call this a decision making bias. We will see when we go into the topic of decision making. Then potential remedies. Okay, now of course with better AI assessments and also performance assessment, hopefully we will make an unbiased, better, clear decisions. There are so many other support system on the decision support system. We call this the DSS, decision support system. With that, hopefully we can use these to make better decisions. That brings us to the next topic on decision making. Okay, this decision making is going to be an important topic in your life. Why? It's as simple. I give you two quotations. The quotation goes like this. It says, okay, by Anthony Robbins, in the moment of your decisions is when your destiny is being shaped. I repeat, in the moment of your decision is when your destiny is being shaped. That means every time you make a decision, you are deciding on your future. Where you are today is the result of your decisions in the past, where you are today now. Because compared to you, some of your friends, they made some decision not to study. So where they are now compared to you. So where you are today is the result of your decisions in the past. That's what Anthony Robbins, I repeat, in the moment of your decisions is when your destiny is being shaped. That's the key. The second quotations. Okay, the second quotation goes like this. Make major decisions early and manage them daily. I repeat, make major decisions early and manage them daily. So go and make some important decisions in your life. I give you three important decisions in your life. Three important decisions. Number one, who are you going to marry? Seriously. Number one contributor to happiness in your life will be the person that you're married to. Number one. Okay, can influence the happiness. The other person cannot make you happy, by the way. Nobody can make you happy, but can influence your happiness will be your spouse. So deciding what kind of person that you're going to marry, what kind of person that you're going to be in the marriage. Remember, you don't expect others, yeah? You ask yourself, what kind of person, what you're going to bring to the relationship. That is the deciding factor, not what you expect others to bring to the relationship. Wrong. What kind of boyfriend, what kind of girlfriend, what kind of husband, what kind of wife that you are going to be in that relationship. That is more important than what kind of person that coming into your life. So number one decision is your relationship, your boyfriend, girlfriend, eventually your spouse. Number two, what kind of career that you want to explore? Career, not job. You can do many jobs in your life, but what kind of career? Example, I decided in 1989, okay, I decided that I am going to be an educator. That's my career. But in between, I've done so many jobs in my life, so many jobs. But when people looked into my career, they will see I am consistently dealing with many jobs, but all of them are related to education. So, number two, what kind of career that you're going to commit to? Decision number two. Number three, who are your best friends going to be? Who are your best friends that going to be? Because they're going to influence your life. That is one saying. The saying goes, show me your best five friends, I will show you who you are. Show me your best five friends, I will tell you who you are. Let's say you work at the level of 40 years old, right? At 40 years time, and this is how it's going to be. You show who your best five friends are, put all their salary together, divided by five, that's going to be your salary. That means the level of your earning will be determined by level of your friends that you're dealing with, because more or less will be the same. So who are going to be your best friend for the rest of your life is the third important decisions. At the moment of your decisions is where your destiny is being shaped. That brings to perceptions and decision making. So how the way that you're perceiving things, okay, making helping you to make decisions. Individual make decisions, that we all know that, okay. But what do you mean by decision? Basically, decision means you choose from few alternatives. That means you decide A or B or C. That's it. Decision means you got options. The key towards decision making is options. Okay. Now, the most important question that you'll be asking is, what are the options that you have? Then how do you choose the best option with all the alternatives that you have? That's the thing. So choosing the right alternative that you have will help you to make a very important decisions. Okay. So decision making occurs as a reaction to a problem. So whenever we talk about decision making, basically what it means is that you have a problem to solve. That's it. Yeah. Basically, why do you make a decision? Because you got a problem to solve. If the problem cannot be solved, it's not a problem at all. So you don't have to make a decision. All right. If the problem can be solved with one way, it's not a problem, because go ahead and do. So now the problem exists because you think there are few ways to solve it. So when you think there are few ways to solve it, selecting the right way is what we call as a problem solving and decision making situations. All right. So, but again, depending on others, yeah. So the way you solve the problem could be best for you, not necessarily best for the others. But we know that whenever we choose certain decisions, we know that is something that you are satisfied with. That is what we call the problem solving and decision making. So there is a concept called rational decision making model. Very important concept. Yeah. It's called rational decision making model. So there are 6 steps in this process. We will go one by one. And the 6 steps are going into, number one, you have to define the problem. I'll walk you with each and everything. Second is identify the decision making criteria. Just hold on, yeah. The challenge of having a teenage son at home is also very busy. Thank you. Let's look into this rational decision-making model as I continued earlier, right? First step in rational decision-making model is that actually you have to ask this question. Is that a problem or symptom? Ask this question, very important. Is that a problem or symptom? Because most of the time, we try to solve a problem thinking that it's a problem, but that could be merely a symptom. For instance, when you have a headache, okay, normally you go and buy Panadol and eat the medicines, thinking that headache is a problem. For sometimes, yes, but most of the time, your headache is the way your body is communicating with you. Your body is telling you are dehydrated. Your body is telling you are not enough having, you're not having enough sleep. Your body is telling that there's a lack of vitamin mineral in your body, or there could be some growth in your head, or brain tumor or something, or could be something wrong with your eyesight, and also the spectacle that you're wearing is not at the right, what do you call, measurement. So there are so many reasons that can cause you headache. So the root cause of this headache is what is the problem. Headache itself, just a signal to you. The signal is called symptom. But normally what you do, you take Panadol, you eat. Same goes to fever. Fever is not sickness. Fever is symptom. Fever is the way your body is telling you, hey, something is not right. So now the body will increase the temperature of your body. It will increase the temperature of the body. Why? Because there is a foreign element in your body. Foreign element in your body. Bacteria, virus. So now your body started to take charge. Your immune system started to take charge. It will increase the temperature of the body to kill the bacteria, to kill the virus. That's what you are having a high temperature during fever. So fever is a symptom telling that something is bad is happening in your body. But what you'll do, you take tablet to reduce the high temperature, which is the way your body is dealing with the problem. Now you're attacking the symptom, that is the high temperature, and you're trying to solve the symptom, not looking into the actual problem faced by your body. So before you solve any problem, the most important questions that you should be asking is that, am I solving the problem or am I solving the symptom? That is the step one in any decision making. Then you decide the decision making criteria. Decision making criteria mean, are we going to make decision based on budget? Are we going to make decision based on the environment and whatnot? Decision making criteria is very important. We will see more examples later. Then you measure each criteria. Why this criteria is important than that one? Okay, you have to measure the criteria. Why the criteria is important that one? So based on this measurement of criteria, you develop few ways of solving problem. We call that as a alternative to the problem. These are the ways of solving a problem. Once you have a few alternatives, then you measure each of the alternative so that you can select the best one. So you go through all these again and again. It's called the rational decision-making model. Compared to later, we will say there is also a creative problem solving that will take a different process altogether. So that's a key here. The key here is that how are you going to solve this? By going through step-by-step process of decision-making. What are the assumption of decision-making model? So we think that we have enough information. So we are safe to make that decision. That's an assumption, yeah. Okay. And we also think that we already make enough what do you call options. We already consider many options here. Then we also decide that the option that we are choosing will have the best outcome that we want. So these are all assumption, yeah. We can go wrong, but that's the whole process of decision making. Okay. But you know what? Most of the time, the decisions that in the real world don't follow the rational model. Why? Because most, if not all, most of our decisions are, okay, emotional decisions, not rational decisions, particularly purchasing, buying things. Even though you think that you have got a very clear idea why you are buying certain things, unfortunately, this is not the truth. The truth is you buy things because you emotionally feel right, not rationally feel right. So most of the time, your purchases are emotional decisions rather than rational decisions. That is what it says, that not all the time the real world follow these 6 steps of rational decision model, but it's a good model for you to analyze things. Yeah, I'm not saying that that's a bad model. It's a good model for you to analyze things. That lead to another concept called bounded reality. Okay, so here people make a decision based on what they understand about the environment, what they understand about the environment. That is the whole idea. And people can manipulate you with that. People can manipulate you by giving you certain idea, okay, certain idea of how you're supposed to think. And now you believe that is the way of making decisions. All right. Bounded rationality is where sometimes politicians make you believe that you're making the right decisions. But that is the decision that they want you to make. That's one thing. Okay. So individual operate within the confines of the bounded reality, then I mean it's easy for you to make a decisions. For instance, in this country, we got race A, race B, race C. How to make sure that the politicians can survive? Straightforward. The politicians can survive if they succeed to ensure this race A, race B, race C don't unite together. I mean, that's it. They will succeed. They will become multi-billionaire and trillionaire, the politician, by taking all the what they call wealth to themselves and the family, so that they will enjoy the benefit of it. How? So this is how they will do, by making sure that you don't ask them questions. Okay? They don't want you to ask them questions. What they do, right? That's why the ex-prime minister can have 177 millions in the bank. 177 millions. That's why the former prime minister have 2.6 billion in the bank. So why you won't ask them questions? You want to know why? How? They'll make sure that you're busy fighting other things. And what is the other thing? They'll create the racial tension. They'll create a racial tension. They will put in a race and the religion, and they will make sure that all these races are fighting with each other, so that when you're busy fighting with each other, you think that you are doing the right thing, they will be busy, okay, doing what they are doing best. Take away all the wealth for themselves and the thing. Why? Because in our mind, what you're doing is right. Because they have created certain rationality in your mind. We call that as a bounded rationality, right? So how does this rationality works? Once a problem is identified, the search for criteria, remember we discussed, then we talk about only few people who are aware of this will be manipulating things. Okay? And the one that making the decisions, they will say, okay, you don't focus on this, don't focus on this, don't focus on this. You focus on only on this and decide and discuss. discuss and decide. So they give you the framework, and the decision maker will determine. That's the key. You see, now bounded rationality works in a company. It also works at a different level, but it can work against the whole idea. Next, intractable problem. Okay, so this is an important thing. Sometimes when we started to solve a problem, right? Okay, just a problem that may change entirely or become irrelevant before we finish the process. So before we go into something else, right? We are fighting and all the thing, then it's become irrelevant. Then it become irrelevant because because now you are focusing on other matters. Now you're focusing on other matters. Like what happened in our national issue, then suddenly China and America are fighting, not war, but trade fighting. They were attacking each other. That become the whole issue. So America impose certain tariff. China retaliate. They are attacking each other. So China started by fighting back. And suddenly, overnight, the President Trump come out and say that, okay, we are not going to continue with the tariff. We're going to hold the tariff for the next 3 months. And suddenly, whatever work that China was doing to counter America, what to do now? Because they were come out with the plan to attack America. So now they cannot do that. So that's what is the intractable problem. You are now solving a problem and suddenly it becomes irrelevant. Let's go into the concept called intuitions. We call intuitive decision making. In Bahasa, we call naluri. That means there is not enough data can help you, but a guts feeling, they call it. You use the guts feeling to solve a problem. And particularly, let's say if your mother is advising you, you better take the mother's advice because naluri ibu, the instinct ability of the mother is always, always sharp. Those days when my mom was alive, if and when I travel, and she will tell you, don't travel tonight, go tomorrow morning. I will follow because the parents' instincts will be really, really important. So sometimes you have made some decision based on intuitive decision making. I was supposed to invest about 200,000 in Standard and Chartered Bank to go into some tech portfolio. Okay, so the bankers will give me. So it was easy for me to sign, but last minute I was just telling myself, I'll sign on Monday. That's what I said. I met the banker on Friday. I'll come and sign on Monday. She said, why, sir? You just sign in the same. I said, no, just no. So what happened on Friday night? We were faced by DeepSeek, the AI platform was launched. So when DeepSeek was launched, then entire tech shares, big tech companies, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and also NVIDIA, the share prices all gone down. So let's say if I signed on Friday, I would have lost about almost 200,000 because of my things. But my instinct was telling, wait, lucky, sometimes it happens. Sometimes your instinct can go wrong as well. So how can we deal with this? We will deal with this by reducing biases and errors. Some of the future, the ideas will be focus on goals. Read, these are quite easy one. You must focus on goals. Don't be distracted by anything else. Then most of the time, what we do, you believe on your belief system, but maybe you wanted to look for other informations that can prove you wrong. Maybe your belief system is wrong. So go and look for information that can prove your belief system is wrong, can make your decisions better. And also, when things happen, random things happen, right? So stick there. So you don't try to give a meaning to random things. No, things happen. Sometimes they are not related. Don't try to make connection between and come out with the wrong kind of conclusion. Finally, all right, always better to create more options for you to choose from. That definitely that will be helpful to make you good decisions. But during decision making, this is the bias that we should overcome. Overconfident bias, so you're so sure that the decision that you're making is correct, not necessarily. So you have to be very rational about it. Hankering bias, because you are making decision based on your previous experience. Okay, your hanker means, remember the one that hanker the ships they used to stop. Okay, the hanker. So why? Because the way that you're connected with your previous decision making also can be wrong. Confirmation bias, and this is the way that we are looking at it. Um, your decision now, if as long as it can matches the previous decision and you succeeded, now you think that this decision also will succeed. We call this a confirmation bias. So it supports these decisions is being supported by your previous decision. Could be wrong as well, because these two are two different decisions. Availability bias is where you make decision based on the information that you have, enough information that you have. That is availability bias. What about information that you don't have? You see, you can go wrong as well. Escalation of commitment is where you already made a decisions. Now you don't want to retract, you don't want to backtrack. So you continue to support your decision because you already made a decisions earlier. That's escalation of commitment. Then randomness error is our tendency to believe that we can predict outcome of random events. So again, we talked about it earlier. Do not give meaning to random events. Random events are random events. You don't give meaning that can influence your decisions. It's not going to happen. Sometimes you will make decisions because of the risk aversion. Risk aversion means they want to go for the safer options. And in that sense, they also may miss some opportunities. So what kind of person that you are? Are you a high risk, high return person, or low risk, low return person, or high risk, low return person, or low risk, high return person? So there are 4 categories of risk appetite. So that also will influence your decision making. And hindsight bias is a tendency to believe that falsely that one accurately predict the outcome of the event after the outcome is actually known. So that means you started to believe that you can predict the future. Okay, now don't do that. So these are some of the issues that influences the way we make decisions. Different individuals make different decisions. It influenced by the personality, okay, level, their intuitions, and how good they feel of themselves, and also how self-centered they are, narcissism, and also sometimes genders make different decisions as well. We have to accept male and female make different decisions. Their mental ability also influences in the decision making. Cultural differences, of course, if you come from a different culture, you make different culture, influences the way you think. Organizationally, he started to feel that decision makings sometimes influence the way that we conduct our performance evaluations. Okay, it could be wrong as well. Okay, and reward systems, how they are being used correctly, wrongly because of the wrong decision that we make. Some regulations that whether we follow or don't follow in the decision making, and also sometimes we make decision a harsh decision because of the short period of time. Also time constant also things. And what about references to the past? How our bosses used to make decision, now we tend to follow them, and this is completely different. You may have certain methods of doing it, but decision making in the time of crisis, okay, could be different. So we call that as a crisis management. It's a different topic altogether, but you make decisions differently in times of crisis. Okay. These are some of the concepts. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is where you make decisions based on greater good. Okay, you make decision based on greater good. Not good for this, but let's say you make decision because you want to be safe. Let's say I don't like killing people because that's bad. Because my decision is good or bad, right? Because I feel that I don't like killing people. That is bad. I will never kill people. But let's say if I see one person who running amok or mentally disturbed, bringing gun to a kindergarten, then we know that he's going to kill the children. Then if I have a gun, I will shoot him. So now I'm okay to kill him. Why? Because earlier killing is bad. I agree. Now killing is good because I'm saving 20 children. So that decision is called greater good. So I'm doing a bad thing, prepared to do a bad thing because of the great good. And that mindset is called utilitarianism. You are making decisions, which is not, you may not agree, but you know that that is the right decision to be made. And this is where the whistleblowers in the organization come in. Whistleblowers are the one that highlight some wrong thing, but you're supposed to protect them because they are taking a risk by highlighting certain things. Then we have to protect them. Sometimes it's a risk to reveal informations also could become a danger to yourself. So most of the time people look at something, bad things happening, they close their eyes. That in Malaysia, there is a Whistleblowers Protection Act. That means if when somebody give information about some bad things happen, and they should be protected as well. Justice, whether or not your decision is fair to everyone, is another question that you should be asking. Ethics, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing the right thing? That is, to me, ethical decision making is far more important than anything else. I will never sacrifice my own standard, even for whatever benefits that I am getting. Finally, what about lying? Are you prepared to lie in the decisions, right? Some people can say there are white light. In Islam, we call tipu sunat. That means as long as you're telling a lie for a greater good, some people willing to do. Some people will say, no, under whatever circumstances, I will not lie. So this is where all the issues of the whole decision-making model comes in. This creativity, I'll touch on next week, but basically talking about you are not going to use the rational model of thinking. Okay, so I will plan an exclusive session on creative problem solving next week. Okay, so we have completed this idea. The other 3 slides are on your implication of the managers. I've shared this with you in our slides here. So now the key question is that we have covered 3 important topics today. One is we covered about perceptions, okay, how these perceptions being formed, and also perception process. Then we looked into how perceptions can go wrong or should go right. We covered that too. Then we use decision making, how perceptions influence decision making, and we also discuss about the most important things about decision making is about make right decisions, and we use this rational decision making model, 6 steps. But we also discuss about all the issues that actually can go wrong in that decision-making model, right? So that's a whole idea. So I hope you all benefited from today's discussions. Hopefully, you'll use this perception content to self-analyze yourself. Then also you'll use the decision-making model to make better, more clearer decisions in your life. Thank you.